On Mother's Day, billionaire Oscar visited his mom with a small gift, thinking everything was perfect. He believed the $10,000 he sent every month, handled by his wife, Barbara, was keeping her comfortable. But when he saw her home, something didn't add up. The money had never reached her. Before we dive in, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I love seeing how far our wealth and love stories family reaches. Mother's Day morning arrived quietly, the kind of soft spring morning that made the world feel gentle for a few hours. Oscar drove through the empty streets with one hand on the wheel and the other holding a small box wrapped in gold paper. For a billionaire, he could have brought diamonds, cars, or a house, but this gift was different, personal, thoughtful, something he knew his mother would treasure more than anything expensive. Naomi lived in the same small house where she raised him. The paint was fading now, the garden not as bright as it used to be, but to Oscar, it was still the safest place he knew. Every time he came here, he felt 12 years old again, hopeful, loved, protected. He stepped out of the car, straightened his jacket, and took a deep breath. He had always believed his mother lived comfortably. After all, for years he had set aside $10,000 every month for her. And Barbara, his wife, always assured him she was sending the money. She told him it was easier if she handled it. She told him not to stress over it. She told him Naomi was very grateful. He trusted her. Why wouldn't he? Barbara had been by his side for 9 years. She knew how hard he worked, how fast his business empire grew, how little time he had to handle personal matters. He thought she was helping him, supporting him, making things easier. But as he walked up to Naomi's front door, something inside him felt strange, a small tug, a question he couldn't name. Naomi opened the door before he even knocked. "Oscar," she said, her voice warm but tired. Her arms wrapped around him, thin and shaky. "You didn't have to come all the way here." "I wanted to," he answered, holding her gently. "Happy Mother's Day." He stepped inside, and his eyes moved across the living room. The old curtains, the cracked tiles, the fridge that he remembered from his teenage years. Still humming, still struggling. Nothing here looked like the home of someone receiving $10,000 every month. Naomi smiled as she served him tea in mismatched cups. She talked about simple things, the neighbor's dog, the weather, her garden. Oscar listened, but his mind kept drifting. At one point, she coughed weakly and pressed her chest. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Oh, I'm fine," she replied quickly. "Doctor says I should get some tests done, but I'll manage." "Tests?" Oscar repeated. "Why didn't you get them?" Naomi gave a short, embarrassed laugh. "They're expensive. I've been saving bit by bit." Oscar froze. Saving? What about the $10,000 every month, the money meant for her comfort, her health, her happiness? He forced a smile, but the inside of his chest tightened. He placed the golden gift box in her hands. "Open it." Naomi lifted the lid slowly. Inside was a silver necklace with a small heart-shaped pendant. Her eyes softened instantly, filling with tears. "Oh, Oscar, this is too much." "It's not," he said. "You deserve everything." Naomi reached across the table and held his hand. Her fingers were rough and cold, the hands of someone who had lived without help for too long. "You always do so much for me," she whispered, "even when you're busy." Oscar felt something break quietly inside him. If she truly believed he was doing so much, then she had no idea about the money he was supposedly sending. The visit continued with laughter and old memories, but behind Oscar's smile, a storm was forming, silent, heavy, waiting to strike. As he drove away that afternoon, he looked at the house in his rearview mirror. A home that should have been comfortable. A mother who should never have needed to save bit by bit. And in that moment, Oscar realized something he had never questioned before. What if the money never reached her at all? The drive back to the city felt longer than usual. Oscar's car moved smoothly along the highway, but his mind was anything but calm. Naomi's words kept repeating themselves, like an echo he couldn't escape. I've been saving bit by bit. The tests are expensive. You always do so much for me. How could she say that if she had been receiving $10,000 every single month? $10,000 wasn't a small token. It was a life-changing amount, especially for a woman who never once asked for anything. Oscar gripped the steering wheel tighter, frustration rising slowly in his chest. He had always known Naomi wasn't the type of mother who complained. She didn't like to burden him. But even then, she wouldn't lie. If she said she wasn't receiving any help, then she truly wasn't. But Barbra always insisted the money was sent. He remembered the day he first told her. It was 5 years ago, on a quiet evening after a charity gala. He had come home feeling grateful, moved by stories of families who needed help. And he looked at Barbra and said, I want to send my mom $10,000 every month just to make sure she's okay. She never asks, but she deserves comfort. Barbra smiled sweetly, too sweetly now that he looked back. She placed her hand on his and said, Let me handle it. You work too much. I'll make sure it gets to her every month. He didn't think twice. He trusted her. Life was busy. Deals, meetings, travels, there was always something. And Barbra had always been organized, always ready to handle things. But today, Barbra's house told a different story. As he drove through the city, he could feel the weight of guilt pressing down on him. His mother had struggled while he lived in luxury. She skipped medical tests while he paid for private doctors for strangers. She saved coins while he bought penthouses and donated millions. And worst of all, she thought he was doing so much. Oscar swallowed hard and blinked back the sting in his eyes. He had worked his whole life to give Naomi a better life, and somehow he had failed. Not because of neglect, but because of misplaced trust. When he reached his penthouse, the elevator's mirrored walls caught his reflection. He looked like a man carrying a storm behind his eyes. Barbra was in the living room, laughing as she scrolled through her phone. Shopping bags littered the table, designer brands, glittering accessories, things he never questioned. She looked up and smiled. You're back early. How's your mom? Did she like the gift? He studied her face carefully. She looked carefree, relaxed, almost too relaxed. Yes, he said slowly. She loved it. That's good, Barbra replied, already returning her attention to her screen. He hesitated before speaking again. Barbra, did you send Mom's monthly money this month? She didn't look up. Of course I did. And last month? Yes, Oscar, like I always do. He continued staring at her, but she didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't want to. Later that night, when Barbra went to shower, Oscar walked into his office. He opened his laptop, pulled up bank statements, and searched for the transfers. There were withdrawals, exactly $10,000 every month, but no deposits into Naomi's account. None. For years. His heart dropped into his stomach. Everything Naomi said today, every small detail, every moment she struggled, every bill she had saved for, it all matched the truth staring at him from the screen. Oscar closed his laptop slowly, his jaw tight, his chest shaking with the slow burn of anger. He wasn't angry at the money. He wasn't angry at the betrayal of finances. He was angry at the betrayal of love. Barbra didn't just steal money. She stole years of comfort from her mother. She stole trust from his heart. Oscar leaned back in his chair and whispered to himself, "I need answers." And this time, he would get them, even if the truth destroyed everything.
Morning came, but Oscar barely felt it. He had spent the night sitting in his office, the soft glow of his computer screen casting shadows across the room. Every time he closed his eyes, Naomi's smile appeared, warm, trusting, innocent. And right behind that smile was a truth that twisted his stomach. For years, he believed he was giving her comfort. For years, he believed Barbra had been sending the money. For years, he believed everything was fine. But the records on his laptop said otherwise. He rubbed his eyes, stood up, and cracked open the window to let in the cold morning air. It didn't help. His heart still felt heavy, bruised by betrayal. Oscar wasn't a man who acted out of impulse. His entire business empire stood on strategy, patience, and controlled decisions. He wasn't about to confront Barbra without knowing every detail. So he began what he was best known for in the business world: a quiet, thorough investigation. He opened every bank statement from the last 5 years. The pattern was clear. Every month, exactly $10,000 withdrawn. Every month, no deposit into Naomi's account. Every month, Barbra telling him she handled it. Oscar clenched his jaw. He needed more than numbers. He needed proof Naomi never received a penny. He called Naomi's bank, not as a billionaire, not as a CEO, but as a son trying to protect his mother. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "I need to confirm whether any monthly deposits were made into Naomi Collins' account." The woman on the phone checked, typing for nearly a minute. "I'm sorry, sir," she finally said. "There have been no deposits of that amount, not in the last 5 years. Oscar closed his eyes. His throat tightened. "Thank you," he whispered. He hung up and leaned against the wall, breathing slowly, trying to steady himself. A part of him hoped this was a mistake. Another part hoped Naomi had simply forgotten. But the truth was undeniable now. Barbra took the money every single month, and she let Naomi live like she was alone in the world. Oscar opened another file, this time an email chain from years ago. He searched for any message from Barbra about his mother. He found several all saying the same things. "I sent it today. Done. Your mom texted to say thanks. She's very grateful." Oscar swallowed hard. His mother never texted him. Not once. Naomi never pretended about anything, which meant Barbra had lied every single month for years with no hesitation. His hands curled into fists. How could she smile in his face? How could she lie so easily? How could she watch Naomi struggle? Oscar opened a drawer and pulled out old photographs. Him as a child, Naomi working 2 jobs, Naomi stitching his torn shirts at night, Naomi cheering for him at every achievement. She was the reason he became who he was, the reason he fought for success, the reason he never gave up. And now he realized she had carried her burdens alone. Because of him, because he trusted the wrong person. He paced the room, each step heavy, his mind racing. He knew Barbra wasn't perfect. She loved luxury, expensive things, social status, but he never imagined she would hurt Naomi, a gentle woman who never harmed anyone. He stopped pacing. There was one final detail he needed: where the money went. He opened a new bank tab and traced Barbra's spending. The withdrawals matched her purchases: spa memberships, vacations with friends, designer outfits, jewelry he never saw her wear at home. She had a private storage unit filled with items she never even used. It wasn't just selfishness. It was greed. Pure, thoughtless greed. Oscar closed the laptop and took a deep breath. The storm inside him was no longer quiet. He needed answers. And Barbara, for the first time in their marriage, would have none of her usual excuses. Tonight, he would confront her. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would be the same after that.
Oscar stood by the window, watching the city. Normally, the view calmed him. Tonight, it felt like a reminder of everything he had built and everything he had been blind to. Behind him, he heard Barbra humming as she unpacked yet another shopping bag. She didn't notice his silence. She never did when she was surrounded by new things. Oscar finally turned around. "Barbra," he said quietly, "we need to talk." She looked up, surprised by the tone of his voice. It wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was cold, controlled. The kind of voice Oscar only used in the boardroom when something had gone terribly wrong. "Sure," she said, forcing a smile. "What's going on?" Oscar walked toward the dining table and placed his tablet on it. "I visited my mother yesterday." Barbra's smile faltered for half a second, just a flicker, but Oscar saw it. "Oh, that's nice," she said. "How's she doing?" "She's not doing as well as someone receiving $10,000 every month should be doing." Barbra froze. Oscar tapped the screen, turning it toward her. The bank statements glowed bright in the dim room. "No transfers," he said flatly. "Not a single one. For 5 years." Barbra blinked, then forced a laugh. "Oh, Oscar, the bank must have made a mistake." "I already called the bank. I called my mother's bank, too. You never sent anything." Her throat bobbed. I did. Maybe she changed her account." "Enough." Oscar's voice hit the air like stone. Barbra's eyes widened. She swallowed again, searching for another lie, another excuse. But Oscar wasn't the same husband she'd always manipulated. He wasn't distracted. He wasn't tired. He wasn't trusting. He was focused. He was alert. And he was done. "Barbra," he said slowly, "tell me what happened to the money." She looked down at her hands, twisting her rings nervously. I used some of it." "Some?" Oscar repeated. She closed her eyes. "Okay, most of it. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I needed things. The spa packages, the travel, the shopping. And you were always so busy, I thought you wouldn't mind." Oscar stared at her, stunned. "You thought I wouldn't mind that my mother lived like she had nothing? You thought I wouldn't care that she skipped medical tests? You thought I wouldn't notice she was living harder than before?" Barbra opened her mouth, but no words came out. Oscar's voice softened, but the softness was worse than anger. "Naomi lives simply. She never asks for anything. She never complains. And yet you took the money meant for her comfort and spent it on things you don't even use?" Barbra's eyes filled with tears, not of guilt, but fear. "Oscar, please. I can fix this. I'll pay it back. I'll apologize to her. Don't throw our marriage away over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Oscar repeated. "Barbra, this is betrayal. This is years of lies. This is hurting someone you knew I love more than anything." She stepped toward him, reaching for his hand. "Oscar, please." He stepped back. That single movement broke her. His voice remained controlled, steady, devastating. "This isn't about money. It never was. You stole years of comfort from my mother, years of peace, years of dignity." Barbra's tears streamed freely now. "I didn't think you'd find out. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." Oscar took a slow breath. I'm not the one you need to apologize to." Silence filled the room, thick and heavy. Oscar walked past her, heading for the door. "Where are you going?" she cried. "To do what you should have done. To make things right." Barbra fell to her knees as the door closed behind her, not out of remorse, but out of fear of losing the life she had built on lies. And Oscar finally understood that love without respect was nothing at all. He decided to drive back to his mother's house as the evening sky turned orange and pink. His thoughts were with his mother, Naomi, who had endured so much without ever asking for help. When he arrived, he didn't knock. He opened the door quietly, almost afraid to break the fragile silence inside her small living room. Naomi was sitting in her favorite chair, a blanket draped over her shoulders, sipping tea as if the world outside didn't exist. She looked up at him, surprised and relieved. "Oscar? I thought you were busy." "I needed to see you," he said, his voice low, but filled with something Naomi hadn't heard from him in years, raw honesty. Naomi set her cup down, studying his face. There was a storm in his eyes, but also a softness, a vulnerability that made her heart ache. "What's wrong, my son?" He sank into the chair opposite her. For a long moment, no words came. He just stared at her, remembering every sacrifice she had made, every sleepless night she endured so he could live a better life, every moment she had carried him emotionally and spiritually. I found out," he finally said, his voice breaking slightly. "The money, the $10,000, I thought you were receiving every month." Naomi's eyes widened slightly, but she stayed silent, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "It never reached you. Barbra, she took it all. For herself." Naomi's expression shifted to sorrow, but not shock. "Oscar," she said softly, I didn't want to worry you. I thought maybe things were hard for you, so I didn't say anything. I've managed." Oscar's chest tightened. His mother had carried the pain quietly, never blaming him, never demanding what was rightfully hers. She had endured years of struggle without ever telling him the truth. "Mom?" he said, his voice catching. "I should have known. I should have checked. I should have—" His words faltered. Naomi reached across the table and placed her hand over his. Her touch was firm but comforting. "Oscar," she said gently, "don't blame yourself. You did everything you thought was right. You loved me, and that's what matters. Not money, not gifts, not luxury. You." He stared at her, tears threatening to spill. He had never let himself cry in front of anyone, not his friends, not his employees, not even Barbra. But now, in the presence of the woman who had given him everything, he finally allowed himself to feel. I failed you," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You didn't fail me," Naomi said gently. "You just trusted someone who wasn't worthy. You're here now, and that's all that matters. We have today. We have this moment. That's enough." Oscar sat back, breathing deeply, letting the weight of her words sink in. For the first time in years, he felt a strange sense of peace. The anger, the frustration, the betrayal, they were still there, but softened by the understanding that his mother's heart was stronger than any mistake he or anyone else could make. He smiled faintly, his lips trembling. "Mom, I promise, from now on, you'll never want for anything. Not for comfort, not for health, not for love. I'll make sure of it." Naomi's eyes glistened with tears, and she squeezed his hand. I've always known you would, Oscar. And I've always known you are my son. Nothing else matters. In that small, simple living room, surrounded by the hum of the city outside and the warmth of his mother's presence, Oscar realized the truth he had long forgotten. Wealth without love was nothing. Money could not buy trust, loyalty, or the simple joy of a mother's smile. And for the first time, Oscar knew exactly what mattered most. Naomi. Not the billions, not Barbra. Just Naomi. And the bond that could never be broken. The two of them sat together in silence, letting the words fade, letting the emotions settle, letting the love between mother and son speak louder than anything else in the world. The following days were quiet, but heavy for Oscar. Barbra's betrayal had fractured more than their marriage. It had shaken the trust he once had in people closest to him. Yet, even amid the anger and disappointment, Oscar knew his priorities. Naomi's comfort and happiness came first. Everything else, wealth, status, even revenge, was secondary. He arranged for an immediate meeting with his lawyers. Barbra's access to his accounts, credit cards, and personal assets was cut off. She protested, begged, and even tried to manipulate him with excuses. But Oscar remained calm. Years of trust, shattered by greed, could not be rebuilt with words alone. At the same time, he began repairing the damage done to Naomi's life. The modest home she lived in was renovated, fresh paint, new appliances, and a garden restored to its former glory. Medical bills she had delayed were paid in full, including tests she had postponed for years. He arranged a lifelong trust fund for her, one that would provide her with true financial independence. Oscar wasn't just giving her money, he was giving her security, dignity, and the comfort she had always deserved. Yet the greatest gift wasn't financial. Oscar spent time with Naomi in ways he hadn't allowed himself in decades. Morning walks, long drives, quiet dinners, and simple conversations that filled the emptiness left by years of business travel and neglect. They traveled together, saw new places, and laughed more than they had in years. Each moment reminded Oscar that wealth meant nothing without the people who truly mattered. For Naomi, the experience had been painful, yet enlightening. She had never wanted anything from Oscar except his love, but she realized now how powerful that love could be when combined with action. She watched him protect her, fight for her, and rebuild her life. And in return, she gave him the one thing no money could buy: unconditional forgiveness. Barbra, on the other hand, faded from their lives. News of the scandal spread quietly among social circles, and she was forced to confront the consequences of her choices. No luxury could shield her from the loss of trust, respect, and the life she had tried to secure by deceit. Oscar did not relish her downfall, but he felt a quiet relief knowing Naomi's peace would no longer be threatened. As the weeks turned into months, Oscar and Naomi settled into a new rhythm. Their bond, once strained by distance and lies, grew stronger than ever. Every day, Oscar was reminded of the lessons he had learned. Love requires vigilance. Trust must be earned, and true wealth lies in the well-being of those you cherish. One late afternoon, as Oscar and Naomi sat in the garden enjoying the gentle sunlight, he turned to her with a small smile. "Mom, I've been foolish," he said softly. "I thought money alone could show my love. I see now it's time, attention, and care that matter most." Naomi reached for his hand, holding it firmly. "Oscar, you've learned what's most important, and I've always known you would. We have each other, and that's everything." Oscar nodded, feeling a profound sense of peace.
For the first time in years, the storm inside him had settled. He had lost illusions, faced betrayal, and confronted harsh truths, but he had also gained clarity, love, and a renewed sense of purpose. That night, as the city lights glittered beyond the garden, Oscar realized that life's greatest treasures were not counted in dollars or possessions. They were counted in moments, relationships, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her son. And for Oscar and Naomi, those treasures were endless.
Life can teach us the hardest lessons in the most unexpected ways. Trust, love, and family can't be bought, and sometimes the people we lean on the most are the ones who test us. If this story touched your heart, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe, because here, every story will move you, teach you, and stay with you long after it ends.